GingerGM.
Hi everyone, straight into the action and more of this speed run, more of a snail run, but I'm going through the rating boundary from 1200 or hopefully up to 2500. We're looking at mistakes that our opponents make and things that you should be trying to do to improve your rating. We're at the 1800 bracket. We're playing a strong player here, nearly 2000. And rather than playing the Chessbrah London, I'm going to try a different opening. I'm going to try the Trompowsky. This is an opening which I very much like. It was made by Daniel Naroditsky. The idea is to double these pawns, but you do give up your bishop pair. And again, when you play any opening, you've got to know how to develop your pieces and what plans you're doing. And here, I know that the main idea is to get the bishop on this diagonal, move the knight here so the c-pawn can move, and bring the queen here. So my opponent has put the bishop here to offer an exchange of bishops if that goes there. And I don't really want to exchange off things. Now, this is a peculiar move. So when your opponent plays a peculiar move, you should be thinking, why is that not a main line? And I'm thinking that bishop can now be a target. And rather than moving my knight to this square, which doesn't do anything, I'm going to try to bring it around to target that bishop, which seems like a way to take advantage of the placement of my opponent's bishop. And I'm really thinking, okay, he's done something unorthodox. Why is it unorthodox? Normally because it's not the best move. Now I'll continue with my plan. I don't mind if my opponent takes this because I open up the H file for my rook. So now my opponent goes back, and here a couple of ideas spring to mind. First of all, this square. Can I do anything with this square? Like try to slowly take control of it. Maybe even with this very long maneuver. But I like that maneuver actually, because I'm gonna go for this maneuver. I was also thinking f4, f5, but that does weaken my e3 pawn. And you can see that things are getting a bit more technical now in these games. If my opponent tries to break, I've got this very solid like London system formation, worst case scenario. But my main idea is to control this square. And I'm going for this plan because both my knights are quite nicely placed there. And the point is, when I get my knight to this square, which I might do now, or I might even bring now my bishop out, I think I'll bring my knight into this square. I'm hoping that I might be able to get a bit of pressure against my opponent's king, but my opponent has played everything very sensibly at the moment. He's developed his pieces, he's playing very logical moves, put his rook on a half open file, so my opponent is playing excellently so far. Okay, now this is a little bit passive. Let's see, is he trying to come here and come in like this? Potentially. Now, which way do I want to castle? I'm thinking I want to castle queenside. So I'm going to bring my queen out to allow that, and I'm going to use Harry later on. So this square looks like the best square. It points towards g7, and it allows me to castle. Okay, my opponent, another good move. He's got to open up and attack on that area of the board. Now, do I simply castle? I think I'm going to take this one because now he has an isolated pawn. But I have to say, my opponent playing excellently at this moment in time. And I might now change plans because I've got a new target, this pawn. Now, I'm a little bit worried about this coming forwards. Or do I just castle queenside? Okay, I'm going to continue by castling queenside. Let's be brave. I was thinking that my king is now a little bit more exposed because he has things like this. But it does bring my rook into the center quicker. And I'm hoping my knight blocks this strong bishop. I've got h4, h5, getting rid of this bishop. And I can also consolidate my beautiful knight on that square by simple developing moves. So, okay, I've got to defend a2. Let's do that. Move the king. I don't think he's got anything at the moment that can cause my king any problems. These two pieces, not so scary. Maybe now I'm threatening to win a pawn, so this castling looks okay. And like I say, I just want to finish my development or force his bishop to move away because that bishop is blocking a potential attack towards my opponent's king. So you can see much higher quality game from my opponent here than I think what we've seen so far. But I'm still playing logical moves. I'm developing. I've created a pawn weakness when my opponent creates counterplay. I'm looking at plans of attack. Okay, and now I don't think moving the bishop is as useful as moving my h-pawn, because when you're castled on opposite sides, it's more about every little tempo is so important. And in this position, the tempo of trying to get to his king is more important than actually developing, because I've got to try and open up a line towards his king. I mean, moving the bishop here can't be a bad move, but now at least we get my knight into the square, and you can see we've already got a threat. And now my h-pawn can play. He can't take my knight because it's pinned, so I'm just going to try to weaken his king and open up another avenue to attack. And you can see I've saved the tempo by not playing a developing move. Obviously the bishop is very nice here, but it's also not as important as this attack. Tempo is so important. Okay, is my opponent planning anything down here? Well, I think he wants to bring his bishop there. Very sensible. I'm going to open his king up a little bit more. Now, bishop here. I could move my king again to stop that plan. Is this... Okay, I'm going to do that because when we have to attack and defend in chess. I don't really want to play the move b3 because it weakens all my dart squares. So now I've gained myself a little bit more time. So how do we get to his king though? So he's going to push. I've got a3. I can defend against that. I'd love to bring my bishop here, but he just takes it. That doesn't achieve anything. I could try to do this and bring my bishop in. Very interesting. His knight is a great defender. I'm going to try this one. This looks quite interesting to me, but a very double-edged position. I'm getting short of time. Anyone's game at the moment. I want to do this because I'm trying to get my last piece into an ideal square here. If he goes a3, a4, I can go a3. So I'm keeping an idea on my defensive plans here. He'd love to get his bishop here, but I'm covering that square, and I've got c3 if he's able to do that. So I'm thinking defensively as well as attacking. Now if he takes it, I'm just going to fly my bishop in, and I'm thinking I've got another piece attacking. Probably useful for me. Maybe he can take there. Okay, so let's fly this one in. Now, he's going to try to exchange rooks. My knight is now... No, my knight is not on pre because I've got checkmate down here. How do we increase the pressure? This square, or do I come this square? So I'm thinking now if I take here, he then takes my knight. I can't see a good move there. I think if here... Okay, let's go here because we create a threat, and creating threats is important. The pawn I've given up, I'm not so worried about because I'm just trying to get to his king. Knight takes pawn the threat. Okay, he's defending, but now I can come back because I have this idea of queen g8, checkmate. So I realized this in the last position, a little tactic. These positions, this position, it's still very unclear. It's still very tactical. It's only equal material still. I think he okay, so what's he doing here? Anything I need to worry about? Nothing at the moment. This is defended. Let's try to think where my knight is best placed. Now I think I'm going to aim for this pawn. And I always had this c3 move. If you remember earlier, I had this up my sleeve as a way to defend on the dart squares. I was thinking about defensive ideas as well as attacking ideas earlier on. And now this pawn is what I want to take. So his knight, there is a saying, knight on f8, it can't be mate. And this is what my opponent is relying on. But he's going for a queen exchange. I'm a pawn up. I'm very happy to exchange off. So we can now be happy with this position because we have an extra pawn. But as always, when I'm playing, it's on the clock. Now maybe I shouldn't have opened up some files, but it's all on the clock in this position. And my opponent's centralizing his knight. Very sensible move here. And I'm, well, taking things off quickly, but I think it will come down to the clock in a lot of positions. I'm moving forwards, trying to dislocate his piece, and now this is checkmate. Very, very tough game there, and you can see that my opponent is another level of chess compared to a lot of players I played. He played very well. We always had, I feel, a little bit more pressure there. Where did my opponent go wrong? Well, it's not particularly clear, First of all, his opening idea. This is a theoretical position. Now, this move is a little bit odd, and I'm not sure if I played this correctly. What I'd always recommend you do is if you come across an opening where you're not sure about a move, you know, that you're unsure about, then I would say you should look up that move on how before you move and play another Blitz game. Make sure you know what to do. So you can either have a look on a computer. I can use that on chess.com. I would personally use the website I've created, GChess, because that will give me some human games, maybe some analysis on this move. I kind of like what I played. I'm not going to analyze this move now because it might bore you. We're going to get to another game. But I think this is quite sensible. But maybe this f4 move was the right way to play. Not worrying about weakening my pawn, but I'm trying to make him play f5 when he's killed his bishop. And then I can go for this pawn. So I'd probably play f4 in future. My opponent, I think, played an excellent game, but around later on, where did he go wrong? Well, even here, the knight on f8, great defensive piece. Remember that if you're getting attacked. Knight on f8, it can't be mate. It seems to me that after e4, maybe things started to go wrong here. Can he get to my king? Well, it's very hard to attack these two pieces. Maybe he should have played what he did, but after this move, now start bringing my pieces away from the h-file. So something like this, because now this is not a threat. And here we can even just try to play against the back rank. So make exchanges with a very interesting double-edged position. Let's try and play another game. Okay, so we are again playing someone around the 1800 to 2000 rating. Okay, my opponent doesn't want to face me. I should recall that anyone who plays me and loses gets their rating points back anyway. So even if they lose, they get their rating points back. But if they win, they certainly get more rating points. So it's a good chance to learn, I feel. Okay, now after d5, let's again play some different openings. So I've been playing the Chessbrah London all the time. Let's play the Queen's Gambit now. Now this move is a very tricky move. It's called the Shigorian variation. And there's many moves you can play here, but I like continuing developing. When I'm playing with white, I always like to try and have the maximum development. So I'm not going to mix things up too much. I'm just going to stick to principles, bring in my pieces out. If my opponent takes here, well, then I can go e4. And now I think it is time to do something in the center. And this is still theory. I have actually done a DVD on the Shigorian. I played it myself. And the point now is that I can play e4 and I can gain a very big center. And this is the downside of having a knight here and not a pawn. Had my opponent had a pawn on c6, he'd better keep his center. And already he's wasting a lot of time. And I don't fully believe what my opponent is doing here. And I think I should be trying to punish him now. So I'm going to use my pawns immediately. Rather than playing good developing moves, I feel that as my opponent has wasted 2 tempo that knight, giving me a center, I feel I should be punishing him here. So I'm looking for more aggressive moves. Of course, developing a piece is not bad, but this seems very interesting to me. Again, trying to take use of that Shigorian knight. Now, can I take on e5? And blooming heck, I think I'm going to play it. Bishop takes queen, and then this common idea of a check here. But we have to calculate. If he moves his knight there, I will take on d7, winning material. Remember, calculation is key. So takes, check, c6, and now pawn takes there, and I'm threatening a pawn move, releasing my bishop. This is a very common idea when your opponent has a weakened diagonal. I've done some basic calculations, not even that deep. I know the patterns from experience, and I realise that this move is probably just very strong. My opponent should have thought more about that, but he's got himself in a terrible situation from the opening. You know, if you're going to play the Shigorian, if you're going to play a little abstract, not so well-known opening, you need to know it much better, because they are trickier for both sides and you can get yourself into trouble. And the point now is that his light squares and his king is horribly weak. If he moves his knight to this square, well, I should be a piece up after bishop takes d7. I've got loads of pieces. This one, I'm just going to go pawn takes. I know I'm a queen down, but I'm hoping that a big idea with my pawn giving a check, and then I also have this bishop on pre, will win all the material back. So at the moment, I've only got one knight for the bishop. It's a good thing I'm not very good at counting, because it might have put me off this idea. But I've noticed that my threats of this pawn either coming here, winning the queen, or this pawn coming here, queening, are so bloody scary. I mean, talk about scary ideas. And we can calculate something like a6, c7 check, pawn takes bishop, pawn takes queen, and very good. But this is now a beautiful way to checkmate. I can go c7, knight here, bishop takes d7. We're going to checkmate our opponent in 11 moves, and he's 1872. Bishop takes d7 is checkmate next move. And you can see just how simple chess is sometimes. If you know certain patterns and you play with basic principles. The pattern I knew, and again, this is a very nice checkmate. Nice of my opponent to allow it. 12 move checkmate. We can run over that game again. The problem my opponent had is this is a fine opening, but you must know what to do in every situation. He probably only this knight c3 is not even a main line, but it's a very decent line. And the point being, if he takes on c4, I can move my pawn, and I'm trying to cause this knight trouble. I'm trying to say, you play this weird opening, I want to punish you. After knight to f6, I think this is still theory, but now what black must do is take on c4 here. And the point being, if I play e4, he can now go bishop to g4, and the position is different because if we compare this to the game, he has an extra tempo. So ideas like this work for him because my bishop can't get here, there's a pawn in the way. His big mistake was, again, in the opening, tempo is so important. This seemingly natural move actually gets in a lot of trouble because after e4, he's now got to make a decision. If he takes here, I've got a beautiful center. He should take here, and he should play something like this when it's still game on. But you can't lose multiple tempo in a sharp position in the opening. And moving this piece 1, 2, 3 times is really bad. And when your opponent does something strange, like the first game, you've got to think, how can I punish them? I've noticed that this diagonal is a prime juicy target, and we go for that diagonal. And of course, my opponent makes the final blunder by moving here. And I think he's in a hopeless situation when I play knight takes knight there. Okay, let's get one more game in. And we'll see if our rating now 1855. So we're black. I think we will stick. Well, let's play a totally different opening. I'm going to try the Sicilian. I haven't tried this in the speed run yet. Now the Sicilian, again, you might notice I'm playing lots of different openings. This is because I'm a bloody grandmaster. I've played many different openings. I've researched them very, very deeply over the period of my life. I wouldn't recommend you do this until you master one opening at a time. Don't try to play so many different openings because you won't master any of them. Now this one, I play the Dragon Sicilian. He can now play d4, which is the open Sicilian. Instead, he's gone for a more closed position. Now, what's he trying to do? He's trying to play d4 and get a Maroczy bind, and I don't like those positions as black, so I'm going to try to take control of this square. I'm going to do that by giving my knight up. The position seems to be closing in the center of the board, so I don't mind giving my bishop for a knight because knights are better in closed positions. But I can see the fight now is for these squares, and the problem that my opponent has created by playing this move is that this square is a permanent outpost, meaning that if I get a knight there at some point, he can never kick it away with a pawn. So this is now going to be a positional game, but the whole idea of my play now is going to be about controlling this square whilst developing, whilst getting castled. So let's think where these pieces should go. Well, this one is obviously correct because my bishop wants to control that square. Now, if he plays d4, I've worked out that I can take the knight and then take that one. So I'm going to continue by controlling this square. Now, I'm not going to play e5 because that creates a weakness here. I am going to take the knight. As I said, I really don't mind doing this because it's about this square. This, I feel, would be a mistake because I give my opponent an outpost. I want to put this knight somewhere. I don't want to get it in the way of the bishop. So I'm thinking the knight coming here is best. So I'm going to move my pawn here. And my knights are heading towards this square. So let's continue. Now my opponent is clearly going to go here and here, so I'm also now thinking, should I be even considering this idea no, let's keep it simple. Let's just control the center, and my knight will live here forever now. Let's castle. I've completed my development. I've done the first stage of my game. Now, you normally need to look at pawn breaks here, but let's now show you why this plan is so important. I love my knight on this square. Now, this may look like the right option because my knight is so strong, but this is actually a positional mistake, because now my bishop forevermore becomes so strong. Evermore. Poe. I've forgotten his first name. Poe. It reminds me of a story by Poe. Forevermore. It is Halloween after all. Now what do we do here? Well, again, this is a bit like my Iron English course, but the colours reversed. First of all, I could be trying to play b5. I'm looking at pawn breaks to increase the pressure. Now, I can think about f5, but I don't really want to open his bishop yet. So let's just prepare the move b5, rook b8 and b5. Don't want to give this bishop up. I'm going to retreat it. Look at that beautiful bishop. I've also got my other knight coming into this weak square. That's why I put my knight here. So let's see. He's obviously trying to push that pawn. Let's stop his idea. And we're controlling this square. This outpost, the whole game has been about a positional battle for this square. This is what it's all about. Now I'm going to continue by trying to do this advance because I gain space. He's going to probably try to come here, which looks very sensible. Actually, I don't really want to allow this, which might give him counterplay. I want to meet that with a move f5, but then I might lose my knight. So let's just connect my rooks, play a very simple move and defend my knight. So if he plays f4, I can play f5, stopping any kingside play that my opponent has. Now, the reason I understand these middle game positions so well is because I play as white the English opening, 1c4. And these positions are very similar to that in that you get this position, but you get it the other way around. It's like I said, my chessboard course, the Iron English, I've got a lot of experience with this. I would say black is slightly better because I have a square I can aim to control. And my bishop is more powerful than his bishop because it has better range. His bishop has obstacles in the way. Okay, let's continue by making our advance. I don't want to get in as much time trouble as I did in the first game. It makes life a lot trickier. I'm probably going to move my king off a light square. There's no rush in these positions. So let's just move it off a light square. My opponent, I'm noticing my opponent's not threatening anything because my knight covers any breaks. I'm just going to move my king so later on, you know, slightly improve my position. Okay, he wants to go here now, so let's stop that. I don't mind if he takes here because my rook gets some action on this file. So I just want to stop his counterplay. I'm looking at the moves he plays, thinking what's he trying to do and stopping those ideas, because half the way to winning at chess is just stopping your opponent. Here, I might not even have to do anything to win this game. You might be thinking, what are you talking about, Simon? I might be able to win this game by stopping my opponent. For example, let's think. I mean, even now I got b4 because I've noticed that if my opponent tries, if the A file opens, it's going to be hard for him to get control of the open file because my bishop is so annoying. Okay, so I'm very tempted just to play this move. There might be a better move, but let's just keep it very, very simple. I'm controlling both of these squares. Okay, he's closing it down. Obviously, now my rook's not really doing anything over here, so I'm going to re-centralize it. Why am I doing that? Because in order to win this game, I need to have a pawn break, and I'm thinking I'm going to need to use this pawn break. But first of all, I'm going to play h5 because I can see I've got a dart square bishop, and I might want to angle against his dart squares. So a move like pawn here tries to move the g3 square, just lever apart his dart squares. I've noticed that I do weaken a square. That's my only concern. But if he tries to come round with a knight, I would have had bishop here. Now that he's moved his rook away from this open file, I think it must be getting near time to play moves such as e5. But does that work? Takes. His queen can come in here. Now, do I swap off the knights first? Keep it really simple. I'm going to, you know what? I'm not sure what to do. I'm going to move my king. I'm getting short of time. He's not doing anything. Okay, now this move puts his... Okay, now I must play this, surely, because his queen is on the same file as my rook. There can't be a better chance to play this move. I haven't worked out all the possibilities, but it just seems so natural to now do this. Okay, so he takes here. Now I think I take with the rook here. I have allowed this one, but I can move my rook back. His bishop does look quite good, but I'm going to maybe, you know, he's playing this pretty well, but I am going to rely on the fact that my pawn structure is better. He does have a weakness of b3 later on. My knight can get to that. His bishop is good, but my bishop is going to become good as well. Okay, now why can't I just take that one? I don't understand. I have 2 pieces defending it. He has 2 attacking it. I feel my opponent has just blundered, which is a little bit annoying because it was such an interesting position. Now, he might be to... Okay, this is his idea. Okay. But it's only 1 pawn. I don't want this pawn to drop, so let's just defend that one. I think my king's very safe. His knight can't get it. Okay, he can get in my position this way. Maybe his idea is quite interesting, but I still feel my pawn structure is so nice and solid here. If his knight comes here, trying to get into this lovely square. Okay, now he didn't do that. I'm going to try to exchange queens, because my only danger is my slightly weakened king. I don't think he should have exchanged queens. And now I'm going to try and open up my bishop. I'm playing again. I've allowed this knight here. Okay, I'm going to take with my rook the open file. What is this knight though? I'm not sure if I'm better here in this position, because this pawn is weak and his pawns, he's played this quite cleverly. My bishop can't attack these pawns, so it's very, very unclear. But I'm going to try and use this pawn. I need to get my bishop and my king into the position. Okay, this looks like a good square for my bishop. It controls the advance of his king, and as it's an ending, I need to get my king in. Okay, so I'm going to go this way. Somehow trying to get my king to this square. Okay, he's helped me. This looks like an ideal square for my king, because my king can help my pawn and try to get towards his weakened b3 square. So in we go. Now, my rook is not ideal, so let's get my rook to a better square. And in we go. I found a very good square for my rook. I'm slowly outplaying him. We can grab that pawn. Now, I do have to be careful about his h-pawn. Let's move my rook back to defend against his h-pawn, because I do now have a pass b-pawn, which I'm going to use. Okay, I didn't really consider that one. I've got to stop this pawn getting to g6. So I'm going to use my king to come round to stop that one. And okay, my opponent just lost on time there. Actually, a very tough game there. Well played from my opponent, I have to say. He held his own. He only got in trouble because he lost on time. I certainly misplayed the middle game. If we go... Actually, I think I was a little bit impatient with my e5 move. There was no reason to rush this idea. If we look here, I definitely got a better position. This pawn was actually his Achilles heel in the end. This is what lost him the game. It's a weak pawn. I don't have any weak pawns, but he can't really do anything. So what I should be doing, I'm not even sure about h5. I mean, I know pushing the h-pawns was good, but maybe in hindsight, I should just stop his queen ever having access here. But really, to sum up here, I was a little bit impatient. Always think what you did wrong in the game so you don't do it again. Chess is a constant improving mission. And here, I think I should play this. And probably what I should do is actually just double my rooks here. My break is going to be e5, but I figure that I don't rush this move because there's nothing that my opponent can do. Maybe I do exchange knights to get my bishop to this powerful square, and I just play it a lot more slowly than I did in the game. I definitely rushed this one, which I shouldn't have done, and my opponent must have been fine a bit later on there. Remember, like and subscribe. Thank you very much. I'll try to do more videos. Bye for now.